Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Welcome to the Performance Matters podcast from GP Strategies, your talent transformation partner. In each episode, we'll interview industry experts and explore best practices and innovative insights to help your organization improve performance. Emma, what's a great entry point? What are some examples that you're seeing that can just help people advance into the 2.0 world?
So I guess the interesting thing about Gamification 2.0 is because the underlying concept is to design something that uses game mechanics to achieve learning outcomes and to change behavior. That could be anything, and there's a huge range of what that could mean. So in terms of the entry level, what we'd often look at is what can we do with a kind of conventional e-learning authoring tool that really feels like a game and feels genuinely effective in the way it uses game mechanics. And narrative, in terms of the model that we were talking about and all the different pillars we have, some of those lend themselves much better than others to authoring tool games. So story, narrative, making meaningful choices, seeing the consequences of those choices all work really well for that. Whereas maybe something like kind of more heavily randomized, very short replayable game like we also talked about earlier might suit that less well. So that's what we would probably start with. And there's a really great one we did recently, which involved the learner basically needing to learn about the kind of choices you might need to make when in a very unfamiliar environment, needing to make decisions about public health, needing to win the approval and the kind of buy-in of a lot of different people who might have different motivations, might be very unsure of your motives and what you're doing. And it's a narrative-driven game, but it involves sort of traveling around a map, meeting different people, making choices. It feels very immersive. And that's all built in a standard e-learning authoring tool in exactly the same technology we'd use for a normal course. But I think it feels very, very different from conventional e-learning because of the game mechanics that are used.
Yeah,
absolutely. It sounds like you're making an effort to make something interesting and thoughtful, which is very exciting on that end. And like you said, you're taking something basic, but then adding just the power of story and game to level that up. Rich, I'm curious on your side. Let's say if somebody had a little more budget on that, and what would you do if somebody came and said, "Okay, I have a little more time, a little more budget." What would be some additional levers that you might pull?
Well, I think there is kind of no ceiling really when it comes to game design and learning. So if a client came to me and said, "Yeah, they've got all the time, money in the world," I mean that actually is quite a difficult prospect, because the expectations are so high, right? But you can kind of go and be as ambitious as you want to be with designing games for learning. I think it comes down to what behaviors you're trying to change, what knowledge you're trying to convey, and the outcomes you're looking for. And you can do that on a small scale. It may well be possible to do the thing you want to do on a modest scale. But sometimes I think when you apply more money to something, especially in games, just the more time it gives you to polish the experience and make it incredibly friendly. So I'm not just talking about things like making the graphics more high definition and so on, but it enables you to just make it really perfect. Every interaction in the game is just working absolutely flawlessly and buttery smooth, and it feels great to interact with the game. It gives you that time for polish. The last phase of game design is always what we call the polish sprint, and that is doing stuff like that. It's making the animations really crisp, making the sound amazing. I can't emphasize enough the importance of things like having a good soundtrack in a game, not just music, but if you're in one of the kind of games that Emma mentioned a second ago, a narrative heavy game, and it puts you in an environment in that story, well, spend some time and some money making the sound design, make it really feel like you're in that story, and you're in that environment, whatever it is.
Rich, So, question for you is, have you ever had an instance where a client has come to you with heightened expectations and perhaps a heightened budget? And if so, what would be the way that you've responded or would respond to that?
Yes, definitely. So the flagship game project that we've worked on recently it's in the public domain, so I can share this one. It's called How Not to Suck at Money for Invesco QQQ. And
Okay.
so the client came to us with a really interesting problem. It was something that a problem like I've never really, or I guess a brief like I've never really had before, which is how can we educate ideally every college student in America about the basics of financial literacy, and we want to do it in a game, right? So expectations, ambition is huge because we have to reach this audience who themselves have really high expectations and who play games all the time, who speak the language of games, they speak the language of social media and youth culture. How can we reach those people with a learning game? Um, and how can we convey this topic that doesn't get enough attention in school and is going to be such a powerful thing if people can take this learning and apply it into their everyday life? And so we made a game, and I hope that people will go and check this out, because I think it not only does it look awesome, because we had the opportunity to work with a really well-known artist to produce all the art for the game.
Cool.
It teaches some really important fundamental financial literacy lessons. So if anyone needs to go back to school about how to make a budget, how to manage their credit card, how to start investing, then this is the place for you to go. So, and in that situation, how do we tackle it? Well, we go back to our game design model. We start from the ground up there. What kind of experience does this need to be? We think about all those different 24 levers that we can pull and make the game feel differently. And then we build it out from there. And that is definitely our flagship example of a project where we had mega high expectations, mega high ambitions to do something awesome. And I like to think that we absolutely pulled it off. The proof is in the fact that we launched with a billboard in Times Square, and we had the project discussed on morning TV news in America, and it's been a huge success.
As someone, I have a daughter heading off to college next year. And I've immediately written that down as something to have her check out there. So I cannot wait to see some of this amazing GP learning experience public work there.
The Performance Matters podcast is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts or listen on our website at gpstrategies.com.